Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Just Go Play Snapshots. I'm Taryn Lipschitz and I'm here with Daryl Devenish, aka Coach D. Daryl, really excited to talk to you today. I always love it because usually Sunday nights you give me a call to talk about something about work and you've just had dinner with your family. And I love hearing what you guys are eating and some of the struggles you and your wife have. I know you've got two boys and sometimes they can be picky eaters. So would love to hear from you. You know, you and your wife come from different backgrounds. What is it that you usually try to have in your house that you're exposing them to different foods?
Oh, this is a funny question, but yes, my wife's Canadian and grew up with all the shepherd's pie, spaghetti, all that stuff. Where on the post, I come from a Caribbean background. I had curry goat, oxtail, rice and peas, and to the point where I grew up and I didn't even know what spaghetti and pizza was until I was about 12. When I went to a friend's house and they offered me shepherd's pie and I had no clue what it was. They asked me if I ate shepherd's pie and I didn't know because I never had it. So we definitely grew up with, different tastes in food. It's always interesting when I take my kids over to my mom's house and she makes them food and half the things they won't eat. Like she has to make special meals for them because they're not eating curry goat and oxtail. Um, so, it's a great question because we do have challenges. Our kids are very picky eaters. Um, and picky enough, one likes chicken, one doesn't like chicken. So we can't make all these different meals. I need to ask you, what kind of language would help us with these guys? And how do we handle this or how do we talk to these guys? Because sometimes I just want to grab them and say, I sound like my dad, you know, you should be so grateful for this. It's lots of kids don't have food in the other countries. And I want to say that. I've never said that to them, right? Because I think I did say it once, and my older son said, well, why don't we give it to them? Right? So what's the language? Can you help me with some language that I can use with these kids?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Daryl, because in Canada we're so fortunate we have such a diverse population here, where you have in a strip on a street you'll have a sushi restaurant, you'll have a West Indian restaurant, you'll have your typical Canadian restaurant. And what's really important as adults when we're around kids is being aware of the language when we're talking about food. Not saying, oh, I don't like this, or oh, that smells weird. Really exposing kids to why different religions or cultures have different food and what those flavors are, and why it's important to be respectful. And the other part is to not take your own conceived notions about food or tastes or textures and push them on your kids, because you have to remember kids are starting as a blank slate. I'll use I'm a great example. I was a really picky eater up until I was about 18, 19. And that's like through most of my youth, but I really didn't like fruits and vegetables. And what my parents did was they always made sure it was there. So I got exposed to them and it was my choice when to eat them. Fast forward, a couple years later, I'm primarily a plant-based eater. And I eat tons of fruits and vegetables and tons of great healthy foods. So you also have to remember that you have to be patient with kids, but also you can't say to them and expose them and say, oh, I don't like that because it's too spicy, or oh, I don't like the texture of that, because then in their minds they associate what you're saying with that food without even trying it. So it's the same as I always say to parents, if you're going to the dentist, taking the kids to the dentist or to the hairdresser or whatever appointment it might be, don't say to them, oh, don't be scared of the dentist, it'll be okay. They have no idea if the dentist would be scary, except for the fact that you've now put that thought in their head. So it's the same with food. It's expose them to lots of food, let them try it on their own, and make sure that any language you're using around food is very respectful and encouraging. And I love spice. My mom hates spice. We make sure, though, there's the range of different spicy foods at a meal. So it's really about just also, letting them explore and kind of research on their own where these foods come from, and ask their friends who maybe come from different backgrounds, and bring different things into the house so that they understand that. So hope that
That's
answers
great
your
advice.
question.
No, that's great advice because we're not doing that right now. That's great advice. Thanks, T.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think, a lot of parents, they want their kids to try everything and eat the way they do. And taste buds also change over time. So you have to remember that something you eat could taste completely different to a kid, even though it's the same dish. So you also have to remember that those will adjust over time, and it's about making sure that you're still exposing them time and time again. And as long as they're eating and they're happy and they're sleeping well and they're healthy, don't stress too much about it.
Yeah, no, I agree, because there's times where they don't really eat much of their dinner, and then they're starving after, and all they want to eat is junk food like cereal or chips or crackers. So I, I definitely have to try this technique, and definitely put that into the language at the table. Thanks. And on that note, just go play.